I met Adil on a rainy Thursday afternoon at a friend's housewarming party. The kind of gathering where laughter bounces off walls and no one really knows everyone else. He was standing by the bookshelf, thumbing through a poetry collection like he actually read it. I was instantly curious. When our eyes met, he smiled, not in a bold, flirtatious way, but with a quiet confidence that made it hard to look away. We ended up talking for hours that evening, even as the room around us emptied. He asked thoughtful questions and listened like every word I said mattered. I remember thinking how rare that felt. By the time I got home, a message from him was already waiting on my phone. "I'm glad I met you today." From that day forward, he became a constant in my life. Adil had a way of making everything feel poetic. He'd send me good morning voice notes with verses from Foy's or leave handwritten notes in my bag when I wasn't looking. He paid attention to my moods, to the way I took my tea, to the songs I hummed absent-mindedly. It felt like I had finally found someone who saw me, not just looked but really saw me. He made me feel safe, special, even sacred. At first, I thought his protectiveness was just affection in a deeper form. He'd say things like, "I don't want you walking home alone. What if something happens?" Or, "That friend of yours gives me bad vibes. Maybe keep some distance." I brushed it off, believing his worry came from love. But slowly, the lines began to blur. He started questioning who I talked to during lunch breaks, why I hadn't replied instantly, and what I meant by a harmless comment on social media. It was subtle at first, cloaked in concern. But it grew. I told myself it was okay. That maybe I just wasn't used to being loved so deeply. One evening, as we sat on a rooftop cafe under fairy lights, I noticed how Adil's eyes scanned the crowd, watching who looked at me. His arm tightened around my shoulder. I laughed nervously and said, "You're too much sometimes." He leaned closer, whispering, "Only because I can't lose you." That sentence stayed with me long after the night ended. I didn't know then that what felt like devotion would soon feel like surveillance, that the warmth I craved would turn suffocating. But at that moment, I was still in love with him, with the story we were writing, and with the idea that maybe, just maybe, this was what forever looked like at first. I made excuses for him. Adil wasn't like anyone I had dated before. He was intense, emotionally invested, and always present. Too present, maybe. But I mistook his intensity for passion. For a while, it was easy to believe that he was just afraid of losing something meaningful. Then, the small requests turned into expectations. He started calling me multiple times a day, even during work. If I didn't answer immediately, he'd send a stream of messages. "Where are you? Why didn't you pick up? Who are you with?" At first, I laughed it off. "You're being dramatic," I told him. But deep down, I started to feel watched. Like I had to account for every minute of my day, just to keep things peaceful. One afternoon, he showed up at my office unannounced with lunch. I smiled and thanked him, but I was caught off guard. Later that day, he casually mentioned how one of my male coworkers had smiled too much when greeting me. I brushed it off, but a knot formed in my stomach. I tried to communicate. I told him gently, "This is too much. I need space to breathe." He took my hand, kissed it, and said, "I'm like this because I love too deeply. It's not my fault." And somehow I believed him. Over time, the space between us didn't grow. It vanished. I stopped going out with friends. I avoided responding to group chats. If someone posted an old picture of me smiling with another guy, Adil would sulk for hours, insisting I was trying to provoke him. He checked my phone once while I was in the shower. I confronted him, and he didn't deny it. "You gave me a reason to check," he said coldly. "If you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't care." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, questioning my sanity. Was I being too sensitive? Was this how love worked, sacrificing pieces of yourself for someone else? The girl who once laughed freely now watched her own words, calculating how each might be twisted. I started writing in a hidden journal, just to feel like my thoughts were still mine. The final straw came during an argument. I told him clearly, "This is beyond my tolerance. You don't get to control me." He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, "You'll come around. You always do." That smile chilled me more than any shout ever could. It wasn't love, it was ownership disguised as affection. And for the first time I realized, he never intended to stop. I don't know when the numbness set in, only that it became my default state. I stopped reacting to his questions, stopped defending myself. Arguing felt pointless. Every word I said was either dismissed, twisted, or weaponized against me. My world had quietly shrunk. I didn't go out anymore unless it was with a deal. I stopped answering calls from old friends. My parents, though unaware of the full picture, had started asking why I seemed so distant. I lied, of course. Told them I was just tired. In truth, I was exhausted, but not from work. From pretending everything was okay. One evening, Adil suggested I deactivate my Instagram account. "Too many eyes on you," he said. "I want our love to stay private." I told him I needed space, needed clarity. He agreed, but not with distance. Instead, he started dropping by unannounced, leaving flowers at my doorstep, sending me long voice notes late at night about how much he missed the old US. I almost fell for it again. Almost. Then, one night while scrolling through my cousin's phone, she was showing me a funny meme. I saw something I wasn't meant to. Adil's name in her messages. Not just casual talk, flirty, suggestive texts. At first, I couldn't process it. I stared at the screen, willing the words to change. "Are you sure this isn't someone else?" I asked, voice trembling. But it was him. The same nicknames he once used for me. The same emojis. The same charm. Only recycled for someone else. When I confronted him, I expected denial. Drama. Excuses. But what I got was worse. He shrugged and said, "It wasn't serious. I was lonely. You've been cold lately." Like his betrayal was somehow my fault. I stood there, stunned. Not because of the cheating, I think a part of me always knew he was capable of it, but because of how easily he shifted the blame onto me. He wasn't sorry. He didn't even pretend to be. That night, I cried, not because I had lost him, but because I had almost lost myself. All this time, I had been trying to fix something that was never mine to repair. I had confused obsession with passion, control with care. For the first time in months, I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. A quieter, sadder version of myself. But beneath the sadness, a flicker of something stronger stirred, clarity. He had crossed a line he couldn't step back from. And I was finally ready to step away. Leaving a deal wasn't dramatic. There was no storm, no screaming, no grand declaration. Just silence, the kind that speaks louder than anything else. I waited until the morning. He was out for a work meeting. I had already packed my essentials the night before. One small suitcase, my journal, and a heart heavy with lessons. I left the keys on the table with a note that simply read, "This is not love. Not anymore." I moved in with my cousin in another city. She didn't ask for details. She just hugged me tight and said, "I'm glad you're safe." That meant more to me than any apology Adil had ever offered. For weeks, I didn't answer his calls. He sent long voice messages, poems, and promises. He even posted old pictures of us online, captioning them with lines like, "True love never dies." It might have worked before, but not now. I had outgrown the illusions. Therapy helped. Not just the sessions, but the simple act of hearing someone say, "You're not crazy. This wasn't your fault." I started journaling again, not to hide my thoughts this time, but to reclaim them. I began piecing myself back together. I reconnected with friends I had pushed away. I joined a small book club and started taking early morning walks. Little by little, I remembered who I used to be before him, before I shrunk myself to fit inside his world. One afternoon, while sipping chai on the balcony, I watched two birds fighting over a single breadcrumb. And I thought, we all deserve more than crumbs, especially in love. I don't hate Adil. That would mean I still gave him space in my heart. What I feel now is distance, a clarity that comes with time and self-respect. People often ask me how I finally left. They expect a moment, a breaking point. But it wasn't just one thing. It was hundreds of small betrayals, swallowed in silence. It was the slow erosion of joy, of freedom, of trust. I tell them the truth. I even told him that this was beyond my tolerance, but he still didn't stop. So I did. I stopped letting his version of love define my worth. I stopped mistaking control for commitment. I stopped waiting for him to become the man I needed him to be. Some endings don't need fireworks, just peace. And in that peace, I found myself again, not perfect, not whole, but real. That I've learned is more than enough.